Welcome back, everyone. This is section 9.3 for geometry. This is rotations. So when you think rotations, you might think of rotating your tires. You might think of like a skateboarder or snowboarder that does a 360 or a 180 or some sort of trick where they're spinning. So rotation is the turning of a shape, specifically in the coordinate plane. So it's the same thing as what they do with their snowboard or wakeboard or whatever kind of object that's spinning, whether it's a tire or whatnot. It's a turning of a shape in the coordinate planes, more specifically for our geometric cases. So the center of rotation is the point about which a shape rotates. So if you're thinking about a tire, is a good example. If you have a car lifted up so its wheels can freely spin, and maybe I can even draw a tire real quick for you. So if we have a tire, whoops, that did not work out well. So if we have a tire and we have the center of the tire and you have it so you can spin it, all of this shape is going to spin around a central point, which is this. So that would be the center of rotation, okay? So for that particular example, that would be your center of rotation. You don't have to write this down. That's just for an FYI. We're going to go over a couple examples. Now, angle of rotation. This is the number of degrees a shape rotates. Okay, so the number of degrees. So if you spun the tire all the way around, that would be 360 degrees, okay? Now, one thing you want to keep in mind, when we're talking about angle of rotation, we go in this direction. So let me draw a coordinate plane, and you might want to copy this down too. So I'm going to draw a coordinate plane, and when we're talking about rotations, we're talking about rotations going this way as positive rotations. So if we're talking about a positive 180 degrees, I'm going to copy and paste this. Give me a second. So if we're talking about, if we're talking about 180 degrees, we're talking going that way. All right. So another thing I want to show, what about negative rotations? So you can't have such thing as a negative rotation, and a negative rotation is just simply going the other way. So instead of going this way for positive, we're going the opposite way for negative. So negative 270 degree rotation would be that way. Okay. And it's up to 360. And obviously you can spin multiple times, but we're not generally going to do that in this particular course. Okay, so let me minimize this so you can see it, but at the same time I have a little bit more working space. So here we need to get into the notation. So we have a shape, and the original shape is MNO, as you can see, MNO. And we are rotating this to a new location. Okay, let's call this X degrees. Now, we need a center of rotation, so let's label this guy, and let's label him, I don't know, let's label him P for point of rotation. Having difficulties with this. Here we go. So P. Okay, we'll call that point P. Now, as it rotates, just like the other examples, it becomes a new shape, which we label M prime. And how do I know that's M prime? Well, if this M was the closest point to the point of rotation, and it rotates, it still needs to maintain that this is the closest. Okay, this is a rigid transformation, meaning the shape needs to stay the same size, same proportions, so the corresponding angles need to be the same measure. So this N needs to be the same as this N prime. It needs to be the same measure, M prime. And this O needs to be the same, so that's O prime. So that's what our new shape looks like. So let's talk about the notation. So the notation, instead of a big R, because big R is reflection, we're going to use a little r. So let me use actually red so we can differentiate. So a little r stands for reflection. Now we're going to use parentheses, and these parentheses right here are going to tell us some information. The first thing is going to tell us how much are we rotating the shape. How many degrees are we rotating the shape? And then the second thing is, where is the center of rotation? Sometimes that might be a labeled point, sometimes it might be a coordinate, okay? But it tells you, point P tells you where is the center of rotation. And just like we had before, we have parentheses and the pre-image is displayed here. In this case, it's triangle. We'll call it M, N, O. Okay, and just like before, this is going to be the image, which is M prime, N prime, O prime. So let's again label everything. So this means rotation. This means the angle of rotation. This is the point of rotation. It might be a coordinate. This is the pre-image before the transformation happens, and this is the final result. This is the image. Okay, so we have some definitions of what a rotation is and how to notate it. In the next video, we're going to get into some examples. Stay tuned.